For more than 50 years, the aviation world has been dominated by just two names, Boeing and Airbus. For decades, these two companies have controlled the global wide-body aircraft market, building the airplanes that connect continents and carry millions of passengers every single day. From the Boeing 777 to the Airbus A350, their aircraft have become the backbone of international air travel. But right now, something is happening that neither company can afford to ignore. A country that, until recently, depended heavily on Western aerospace technology, is preparing what could become its most ambitious commercial aircraft ever, the proposed COMAC C939. At first glance, it might look like just another airplane project, but that's not what makes it important. Because the C939 isn't simply about building a larger passenger jet. It's part of China's long-term strategy to build a completely independent commercial aviation industry, an industry capable of designing, manufacturing, and eventually supporting its own family of world-class aircraft. But here's the interesting part. Building a modern passenger aircraft is already one of the most difficult engineering challenges on Earth. Building one that can compete with Boeing and Airbus is an entirely different challenge. A wide-body aircraft isn't just a bigger airplane. It requires years of aerodynamic research, advanced composite materials, highly efficient engines, complex flight systems, and, perhaps most importantly, the trust of airlines around the world. Because airlines don't simply buy aircraft. They invest in reliability, maintenance support, global spare parts, pilot training, and decades of operational experience. History has shown that many companies have tried to challenge Boeing and Airbus. Very few have succeeded. So why does China believe it can? The answer begins long before the C939, long before the headlines, and long before anyone believed China could seriously compete in commercial aviation. To understand the future, we first have to understand how China got here. And that story begins with two aircraft that quietly changed everything, the ARJ-21 and later the C919. So, what exactly is the COMAC C939? At this stage, the aircraft remains a proposed long-haul wide-body program. Many of its final specifications have not been officially confirmed, but its ambition is already clear. The C939 is expected to become COMAC's flagship long-range aircraft, designed to carry hundreds of passengers across intercontinental routes. If that vision becomes reality, it would place China in direct competition with aircraft like the Boeing 777X and the Airbus A350, two of the most advanced wide-body jets in service or entering service. But building a large aircraft isn't simply about making it bigger. Every extra meter of fuselage adds new engineering challenges. The wings must generate more lift. The structure must remain lightweight, yet incredibly strong. Fuel efficiency becomes even more important because airlines operate on extremely tight profit margins. Even small improvements in fuel burn can save millions of dollars over the lifetime of an aircraft. And then there's the engine. Without a powerful and efficient engine, even the most advanced aircraft design cannot reach its full potential. That's why engine technology has become one of the most closely guarded areas of modern aerospace. For decades, this field has been dominated by companies with generations of experience. General Electric, Rolls-Royce, Pratt & Whitney. These manufacturers have spent decades refining high-bypass turbofan technology, investing billions of dollars in research, testing, and certification. China now wants to build that capability at home. One of the projects attracting the most attention is the CJ3000. Although many technical details remain limited, the engine is widely expected to play an important role in China's long-term vision for future wide-body aircraft. Developing an engine of this class isn't simply about producing more thrust. It requires advanced materials capable of surviving extreme temperatures, highly efficient turbine designs, precise manufacturing, thousands of hours of ground testing, and years of flight certification. In aerospace, engines earn trust over time, not through promises, but through millions of hours in the air. That's why the road ahead remains challenging. Building the airplane is only one side of the equation. Building the ecosystem around it is the real test. And that's exactly where Boeing and Airbus still hold one of their biggest advantages. But what happens if China eventually closes that gap? That's the question the entire aviation industry is now watching. So, does the COMAC C939 really threaten Boeing and Airbus? The honest answer is not today, at least not yet. Boeing and Airbus have spent decades building something that's incredibly difficult to replace. Not just airplanes, but global ecosystems, thousands of suppliers, worldwide maintenance networks, certified training centers, spare parts available across continents, and perhaps most importantly, the trust of airlines that have operated their aircraft for generations. That advantage cannot be copied overnight. Even if the C939 enters service in the future, earning the confidence of international airlines will take years. Every flight, every inspection, every successful landing will help build that reputation. But aviation has always rewarded patience. Today's industry leaders weren't built in a single decade. They were built over generations. And China appears to understand that. The ARJ-21 wasn't built to dominate the market. It was built to gain experience. The C919 wasn't expected to replace every Boeing 737 overnight. It was designed to establish a presence in commercial aviation. The C939 follows the same philosophy. Step by step, building capability, expanding experience, and gradually reducing dependence on foreign aerospace technology. Whether that strategy ultimately succeeds remains to be seen, because designing an aircraft is one challenge. Keeping hundreds of those aircraft flying safely for decades is another challenge entirely. Airlines don't simply invest in engineering. They invest in reliability, support, parts availability, and confidence that every aircraft will continue operating for years to come. Those are the standards every new manufacturer must eventually meet. So, perhaps the biggest question isn't whether the C939 will replace the Boeing 777X or the Airbus A350. The real question is this: what will commercial aviation look like 20 years from now if more countries decide they no longer want to depend on foreign aircraft manufacturers? Will the future still belong to just two companies? Or are we watching the beginning of a completely new era where multiple aerospace powers compete for the skies? Right now, nobody knows the answer. But one thing is certain: the race has already begun. And the next chapter of commercial aviation may look very different from the last. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more in-depth stories about the hidden competition shaping the future of aviation, make sure to subscribe, because the next story is already taking off. The story didn't begin with the C939. It began with a much smaller airplane, the ARJ-21. On paper, it looked like an ordinary regional jet, but for China, it was something much bigger. It was a classroom. The ARJ-21 allowed Chinese engineers to learn how commercial aircraft are designed, assembled, tested, certified, and supported after delivery. It wasn't built to dominate the global market. It was built to build experience. And that experience became priceless. Every aircraft delivered, every flight completed, every maintenance inspection gave COMAC something no amount of research could provide: real-world operational data. But China knew one regional aircraft wouldn't be enough. To compete internationally, it needed an aircraft capable of entering the world's most competitive market. That's where the C919 came in. Unlike the ARJ-21, the C919 was designed to compete directly with two of the most successful aircraft ever built, the Boeing 737 MAX and the Airbus A320neo. It was China's first serious attempt to enter the narrow-body market. The aircraft featured modern flight controls, advanced aerodynamics, and improved fuel efficiency. But perhaps more importantly, it proved that China could move beyond regional aviation. Of course, the journey wasn't easy. Many critical systems still relied on international suppliers. Engines, avionics, landing gear, and several key components were sourced from experienced global aerospace companies. Some critics argued that this meant the C919 wasn't truly independent, but that argument misses the bigger picture. No major aircraft program begins with complete independence. Even today's aerospace giants spend decades building their industrial ecosystems. China wasn't trying to skip the process. It was following it one step at a time. The ARJ-21 built experience. The C919 built confidence. And together, they laid the foundation for something much more ambitious. The COMAC C939. Because once you've learned how to build a successful narrow-body aircraft, the next challenge is obvious. Can you build a world-class wide-body? That's the question COMAC is now trying to answer, and the answer depends on far more than the airplane itself, because the biggest challenge is still waiting: the engine.